and concentrate. Come, let us sit and try to relate. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come, let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. Again, we have that opportunity to talk, to dialogue, to converse about what is happening here in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique, and what happened in the past. Because sometimes I go into the past, and then I come to the present, and then I look to the future. That is why we are in this space. We are here to look back, to look at what's going on now, and to look at what we intend to do in the future, what we intend to achieve in the future. I want to encourage those who are on Facebook and YouTube to please share the live. Sharing is caring. I want to say, amazingly, there was a 1 hour and 20-something minutes press conference yesterday detailing the amount of help the farmers will be getting, the things that the ministry already did for the farmers, the amount of programs they started and assisted the farmers and the fishers and the CMOS farmers, right? Not just those who are on land, but those who are actually using the sea. They detailed all of that, how much millions of dollars being spent to help the farmers, cash, check, just name it, all right? Then we heard in the press conference about the regularization of workers, the amount of workers who have been regularized, the new pension plan for contract workers. We got an update from our beloved Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure on some of the ongoing projects and those to come. So all of that in that press conference. And you know what people are talking about? People are talking about the announcement made by our beloved Prime Minister that National Heroes Day, I think it's Saturday, no amplified equipment will be granted permission, like a DJ or so, to a DJ system to play music. So there would be no parties here, there, and everywhere. And even if you have a football match, you don't need an amplified system there. You don't need a DJ to have big show and big this and big that. You don't need that there. All right? But again, you have these people talking about the fact that it is not permitted on that day. So that's all they can see. That's all they can see. Or that's all they heard. And in fact, the media, that is what they're pushing. They're not interested in facts and all the information that the government put out there. No. They love controversy. They love bacchanal. They love some kind of TV. All right? That's all they're interested in. But here it is. They are not even educating the young on the significance of that day and what it means for many Grenadians. They are not. So a lot of people don't really know what that day signifies. And they're not teaching them. Uh, it's like the Japanese and the Chinese and other countries that understand the need to teach the young, educate the young, empower them, let them know what's going down. All right? They're not interested in that. All they're interested in is some jump and wave, some party to go and spend all their money and drink and so on and so forth, some fete, some kind of thing like that. And then Monday morning they're crying out, no money. The country had and this had and that had. But you're going to give one person all your money and the person goes to the bank smiling. So that is what it is. It's just about jump and wave and misbehave and drink and have fun. Every holiday, that is what they see it as, a fete. But I'm saying law and order must be maintained. And I agree. There should be proper coordination because last year there was a similar thing. Independence, there was a similar thing. And it seems as though the police, they're going ahead and give these people permission because there isn't proper coordination taking place and it's showing up its ugly head in the public. Same thing with those ministries, right? Everybody doing what they want and when they want and how they want. And every time it has to be some administrative issue. So the police, because most of these people, they have friends within the RGPF and they could easily get permission to do all these things. All right? I am saying it's a public holiday with a meaning, with some significance. And the law is the law. The government says it's a public holiday and no amplified music or amplified system will be granted permission. All right? So we have to adhere to that. We have become a nation only about party, party, party. Drink, drink, drink. Once it's a holiday. That's what it's about. Come on, we got to change that. So Wagiti having his football tournament or the start off or whatever, he can go ahead and have his football without some big fete, a big show or some kind of thing like that. Or who artists and who artists. Before time, there was football match going on without all of that TTV. All right? And if he wants to have it another day, so be it. Have it another day. So what? As the end of it? Have it another day. Have it on the Sunday. Or have it the following week. All right? So you don't have to have it on the Saturday. Have it on the Sunday. Some of you people, all your feet for is some kind of TB, some bacchanal. And who goes to the bank smiling and laughing? One man. Or maybe two. Laughing. Go to the bank laughing, smiling. And you spend all your money. Because every time you hear a holiday, you believe it should be some fete. Or some this or some that. It's what it is. I am simply saying the holiday was announced. And not now. Long, and they know that. In fact, the last time around, there was an issue with the same music and amplified sound system and that kind of thing, right? Or amplified equipment, DJ playing music and so on and partying and so on. At the end of the day, there is too much of lawlessness in this place, all right? And you cannot please everybody. If you're trying to please everybody, you will end up in problems. You cannot please everybody. These young people who are talking, they don't even know how significant that day is to Grenada. You hear me? All around the world, you have holidays to mark those moments so people can, be reminded because we're not going back. We're moving forward. But we have to start teaching people and letting them know it has to be something deeper than just going in a park and having a conversation there. It has to be deeper. We have to educate our people. We have to show our people, let them know what's going on. Because, look, it will be tough. Education is not common out here, you know. Yes, some people could read, they could write, they could do math, they could, but when it comes to education, when it comes to being able to reason, to think on your own, being able to make something out of life, it's a difficult thing for some people. Some people, they go to school, they get some CXC subjects or some A levels, or maybe a first degree or second degree, but put them in front of a mic and they would pee themselves. Or say to them, well, start something for yourself now. Make something out of yourself. You don't need to go to work with somebody. Start something. I'm giving you a start. Do something. And they can't do it. Right? I am simply saying we need to see some more thinking. All right. So who is this person here? Andre Samuel. What you're doing here, it's against our community, the people in our community. We don't use that kind of obscene and so on under the live. So I am blocking you from Facebook and I'm blocking you from the stream. Sorry. Have a wonderful day. All right. You will not come under this live and use obscene. So I just block Andrew Samuel, I think is his name. He can no longer access this stream on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere. All right? Yeah. That's what I do. You don't use obscene on the stream. I am simply saying, folks, we need to educate our people. Educate our people. Because next year and the other year, and mind you, the government or the state have not announced any heroes or listing any heroes, but you have the NNP and you have certain people out there who are pushing a certain agenda. The government has not announced any hero list or any list detailing the heroes or national heroes. No. You see, Grenada, and you have to put it in context. Grenada has never invested in the education of its people in the 60s and 70s and let's say 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in terms of educating our people, making sure that they enter pre-primary, primary, secondary, college, at least up to college or university. Governments come, governments go. Now we're seeing a push towards that. But you go back and research. Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, they invested seriously in the educating of their people, providing them with free education from pre-primary all the way up to university, because they understood clearly how important education is to anybody and to any nation. That is why anytime you hear about somebody heading some regional organization or coming to Grenada, for example, and being manager of this and manager of that, many a times it's a Bajan or a Trinidadian, or we say Trini, or a Jamaican, or a Guyanese. Many times. And not only in Grenada, it's happening across the region. What you find is a lot of the people who are taking the top regional jobs are either Bajans, Guyanese, Trinis, Jamaicans. And you wonder why that is so. Because the governments over decades and decades invested in educating them. And we need to see that. Some more here in Grenada. And I'm not talking about just academics. I'm talking about being able to reason, being able to understand. For example, this morning on the Plead Your Cause program, you have the host of the program and others, right? But particularly the host talking about he saw the police officers clearing the sidewalk vendors and so on, and he spoke to them or they spoke to him, something like that. And it was like, using words to the effect, well, you could give them a little ease up, or the market can't hold everybody, and they should block this road and block that road. Words to that effect, words to that effect he used on the program. In other words, to me, I interpret it as, well, okay, they should still continue on the streets. That's how I interpret the thing as. What he said. We condone too much of lawlessness in this place. Yeah, too much of lawlessness. I am simply saying we got to do better than this, right? No, that right. Okay, so this person here again. All these fake pages, you just block them. So I block this one here from YouTube. I would block it from the stream. Right. That's how you do it. Anybody comes under the live. These days, you have a lot of these people with fake pages on Facebook, on YouTube. The minute time they come under the live or on YouTube and they comment, I will see it first. So I will just block them easily. Anybody who comes under my feed when I'm doing my program, the minute time they comment, I will be the first person to see it. So the minute time you comment, and I think it's not in keeping with the community that we are building, meaning the people who listen and view and so on, I would block them easily. And I don't care who you are. Because the NNP, they have a lot of people with fake pages coming under your live and making all kind of comments. But I am reading while I am quick at that. I can read while I speak. So I will just block them instantly. It only takes about 1 second and a half, let's say 2 seconds, to block anybody who come under the live and put anything of, I just block them. It could be YouTube. It could be once they post on YouTube. It could be on Facebook. Once they post, once they comment under it, I will see it first and I will block them. And I don't care who you are. I don't care. There are people who would meet me in St. George's and say, well, you blocked me. All right. I said, so what? If you get blocked, so what? At least you're alive. I'm seeing you. All right. So anybody comes under my live, because I am the sole person to determine when you post something, whether it is in keeping with the community. I don't have to go and consult anybody or speak to anybody. All right. I'm the person who produces this program and I'm the person who hosts this program. So the minute time you come on and you post anything that I, Kem Jones, don't like, I just block you off because I use my discretion, my discretional powers. Good. So I'm monitoring. Anytime you come and just block you, I don't need you under the live to be making all this kind of foolish comments. And especially the people who come on, they are not real people in they don't use their name. So you would see Kem Jones or Akim Lewis, all right, or Emma White. You're going to see these people using their name, or Shireen James. You're going to see a Robbie Benjamin. You're going to see people using their right name or their name. They have photos. They have things to back it up. All right? Yeah. You could kind of go on their page and look and see they have history of using that page. They're doing the same thing on the Ride Along, and I realize Ride Along trying to clamp down on it. You understand? These fake pages that they're coming up with. Anyways, so I am saying we have to invest in educating our people, because you can imagine an hour and 21 minutes of press conference with some really good stuff there, letting the farmers and the fishers and the people know the kind of help that the government is providing for farmers and fishers, and just name it, all the information to the public. It's amazing. It's amazing, folks. But at the end of it, what these people grab and run with is the fact that the Prime Minister announced that no amplified song system or music or whatever will be allowed. But I am saying there is a need for our people to understand the significance of the holiday and the day. So we need to invest some more on educating our people, especially the young people, on what took place on that day. and no heroes list was mentioned. So the government never announced the people who will be awarded or given that status. So those folks out there talking and talking and talking, utter rubbish, you see? But again, it goes to show. But I want to, at this point, give you a little taste of what was discussed yesterday at that press conference. And I would start with our beloved Prime Minister speaking about, pension reform. He spoke about that for a while. And then, or maybe I can look at the PS. Let me feature the PS first, speaking about regularization and a little about pension reform. And then our beloved Prime Minister will speak. And then I would have the Minister of Agriculture, Lennox Andrews. He will speak to the assistance given to farmers. And then we'll have Dr. Cummins. He would speak to the assistance given to the livestock farmers in particular. And then we'll have an update from Justin Rennie, the Chief Fisheries Officer, speaking to the fishers what they will be getting.
For the purpose of this exercise, we always make the point that regularization does not mean moving all our workers wholesale from the unestablished to the established without any form of review or assessment. So we always like people to get that point extremely clear. Regularization, for us, according to the approved regularization framework, it refers to the process of correcting the anomalies in the terms and conditions of engagement of workers in the public service. And for us to get a better sense as to where we are now, it's important for us to step back a bit. And as we step back, we want to reflect on a few, probably about 10 years or so back, when the economic state in Grenada was at an all-time low. And we saw a decline in all of the major sectors: the construction, the tourism, foreign direct investments, grants, and even revenue. All of it was low. And when we reviewed the assessment that was done at the time, for every dollar that was spent, 70 cents went towards wages and pension, and 30 cents went towards paying debt. What does that leave us? It left us with no money for capital expenditure. And a country who is not expending any monies in capital expenditure, we know there's zero growth. And so the economy is going to be at a standstill. That led us to engage the IMF. And with that engagement, Grenada was able to secure a 3-year extended credit, and that aimed to foster fiscal stability in the country. And the IMF recommended structural and economic adjustments, and hence that gave rise to what we knew as the Homegrown Structural Adjustment Program, which ran from 2014 to 2016. That program had 3 pillars. It sought to look at the structural reforms for growth and job creation. It looked at the administrative reforms, and this is where the fiscal stability concerns was addressed, and it also looked at debt restructuring. A critical part of the administrative reforms dealt with wage bill management, and hence we saw the need for the FRL, which put a cap on wage bill at a 9%, and we saw the attrition policy being introduced. The attrition policy guided the implementation of strict attrition measures across the public service. And that is where we experienced the fact that for every 10 exits in the public service, we were only able to fill 7. Sorry, we were only able to fill 3, the opposite way. So for every 10, we were able to fill 3. So it means that we lost 7. And these replacements were determined by the type of the positions and how critical these positions were to driving the strategic agenda for the ministries and the departments. To maintain fiscal discipline and not to inflate the wage bill, and also to still meet some of the service requirements at the time, we engaged using various instruments. And that we see that brought us to where we are today with the parallel public service. We have the established and we have the unestablished. And with that resulted in the insecurity of tenure, the pay and vacation inequity, professional immobility, and all those sort of things that negatively affect some of our workers. For us, we thought this must be done systematically, and so we developed a framework, and the approach sought that we should take this thing step by step. And we've explained that the regularization would be done in 3 phases. The first phase only looked at the acting, people temporary, people on assignments, and people who are on probation. And yes, we anticipated, our aim was to cover all these category of workers in 2023. And we understand that things don't always go as planned. So of course in 2023 we weren't able to cover everybody, but the good thing about the framework, the phases are not prerequisite. So phase 1 don't need to finish for phase 2 to start, and phase 2 don't need to finish for phase 3 to start. So we were able to continue with phase 2, even if we weren't completely finished with phase 1. But as we progressed, we were able to iron out some of the teething problems that we had in phase 1, and we were able to regularize more than the targeted 300 people in the first phase. We're happy to know that 404 positions were regularized in the first phase thus far. And as we continue this year, 2024, the anticipated number of people that we would look to address would be 1,262. And as we move to phase 3 in 2025, the bulk of the people, 3,316, which include the Imani workers. A critical part to the regularization exercise, a measure that would help us to further strengthen the reforms initiative.
Right, so that was P.S. Marshall there. P.S. Marshall explaining, talking about the reform, what it's all about. And now I will play our beloved Prime Minister speaking to it further, pension reform and so on. All right.
This pension plan is going to be applicable to 3,000 plus persons who do not have a pension. So if they leave the service now, whether it's on retirement age or whether they've worked for 10 or 15 years, they get nothing. So what the government is seeking to do is to give them a pension plan. And the government is contributing 3%, and we're asking them to contribute 3%. So that 3% is their money. The only issue is that we are simply saying, as opposed to spending all of it now, we are incentivizing you to save 3% of it, and we are matching an additional 3%. And to be clear, for all of the years that you've been working that you do not currently have a pension plan for, so that if you were leaving tomorrow, you will get nothing when you walk out, we are actually paying a past service contribution on the commencement of the pension plan. As in, we are going to fund a certain percentage to recognize the fact that you've already worked for whatever period of time with no payments going towards your pension. So I want to emphasize this. This is gain, 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 because currently you have nothing. If you leave now, you get nothing. If you work until you retire, you get nothing. And we're saying that, you see the numbers. We're not talking 5 people here. We are talking 3,600 plus persons who currently face this situation. And so we also have to talk about sustainability. The PS provided the background as to where Grenada found itself and why it was forced to go into structural adjustment and take all of the painful policies it had to take because the management of the government's finances was not being done prudently. And so we cannot go back to a system where the pension is completely funded by the government, i.e. taxpayers, with no contribution from the employees. Such a plan will simply not be sustainable. And if we did it 5-10 years from now, we'll be right back where we currently are. Because the situation we're in has arisen by the fact that essentially we had an unsustainable human resource finance management policy in place, which saw 70% of our money going towards wages and salaries, and the rest going towards financing debt. I still want to repeat the call made by the PS. Very early, the department wrote to the Trade Unions Council inviting them to take part in this process. They have never done so. Notwithstanding that, we will continue to engage with them, whether it's individually or collectively if they want to do so. The consultant has been on island repeatedly throughout this process, and there's been several engagements, and we have no difficulty in addressing that. The PS didn't say this, but I'm going to say it. The Public Workers Union went to the lawyers who wrote the government. We've since responded to that letter. And even in that letter, although what was contained in the letter was hogwash, we have still indicated to them we are ready to meet, and we propose the date of 30th October. But I want to make it clear, we are committed to doing this. We are committed to making sure that we do not leave the current generation of workers who do not have a pension to find themselves 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now retiring with no pension in place. It will not be good for them. They will retire into poverty, as many people have been doing over the last several years. It is still going to be the government and taxpayers they're going to be running to for some kind of social safety net or social protection. And so we are committed to ensuring this happens. And I'll make the final point. This pension is not impacting the 4,000 plus public servants who currently fall under the existing pension scheme for pensions when they retire. So you have to appreciate the kind of burden the government is undertaking by seeking to keep in place the existing pension for established public servants and at the same time create another pension for another 3,600 plus and counting persons. That is what we are seeking to do, and we are committed to do it. And we would hope that those who say they champion the rights of working class and working people will in fact take part in the process to help shape the outcome, which is by any yardstick an improvement on the current circumstances that the 3,600 plus workers find themselves in. So I just wanted to make that.
Right. So folks, our beloved Prime Minister explained this thing very clearly. But my thing is, what government should do now that the union president is making a big hype and a big fuss? What they should say is, well, the people who are working on contract right now and don't want to pay the 3% and have government match their 3% in a new pension plan, then you have the option not to enter. You don't have to pay anything. All right? You don't have to pay anything. Just don't accept it. So go home with no pension and go home into poverty. But government must also get the information about that person. So that person would not fall under the seed program, right? To come and get money from government or any other social safety net program. So I think that is what the government should do now. So the union president making a big fuss, and believe me, the workers who are on contract, they are not making that hype. They're glad. The majority of them, at least, they're glad. They're glad that the government is doing something about it, right? Because they're going home as it stands now with no pension, no nothing. They're retiring and they're going home with nothing. The government is trying to put a new pension plan in place for them, or at least put a pension plan in place, not new, because they don't have anything. The government is trying to put a pension in place for them. What I am saying is, what the government should do now is say, okay, if you don't want to fall under this new pension plan and pay 3% towards your pension, all right? Because, Brian Grimes said that they would be worse off? Where's that piece with Brian Grimes? All right. Yeah, Brian Grimes, I think that's it. I think he said they would be worse off. Something he used, some words he used. What I have him as. I might even know what I have the guy see as, because he's so unimportant. All right. Pension. I don't even know what I have him see as here. But he made certain pronouncements on MTV. All right, on MTV News, where he said that they wrote um they wrote the DPA, and he made certain things there. I don't know what I see him as. All right. I don't know what I see the guy as. Sorry, but I don't know. I wish I could have played that. I don't know what I see the guy as. All right. Let me see here. If that is what I don't know what I see the guy as.
The department
Of
No.
August.
I don't know what I see him as. I don't know if it's Union Donkey or whatever. I don't know why I see the guy as in my archive. Maybe Union Donkey, but I don't know. All right. But nevertheless, I am saying I played that piece where he was speaking that, well, where he used words to the effect that it would be worse off. All right. It would be worse off because look, they have to take money out of their pension, something like that. All right. I wish I had that somewhere there. Let me still see if I can find it. All right. Let me still see if I can find it because I think it's important for me to play that piece for you because he was using words to the effect that it would be worse off. And I laugh because right now they don't have anything that they've fallen back on. All right. So PWU, I think advertise. PWU writes right let me try PWU. PWU. Yeah. All right, good. So let me play that because I think it's important to put this thing into context. So you heard our prime minister there, our beloved prime minister, and let me just play that because I think it's important. All right, it's amazing. So this is the Union Donkey here, Brian Grimes, the Union Donkey speaking. All right, let me just.
Grenada Public Workers Union, Brian Grimes, disclosed to our news desk that they have engaged the services of a local law firm to write the Department of Public Administration seeking answers over the delayed regularization of its members. According to Grimes, this latest action is due to what has been deemed by the union as a sluggish response by the DPA to multiple requests for answers. Grimes spoke to our news team on Friday.
We wrote several times. We eventually secured a meeting August 15th, right? We spoke with some personnel from the DPA, all members, by the way, not the policymakers. And August 22nd, we sent some correspondence to the Department of Public Administration, DPA, expressing what the areas of concern were, which amounted to about 6 different items. To this date, we have not received a response. And that correspondence to DPA was also copied to the Cabinet Secretary. So essentially, the Cabinet of Grenada knew about it and knew what our concerns were.
Grimes confirmed that the law firm wrote to the DPA just over a week ago, requesting further dialogue on the matter.
So we have procured the services of Henry and Bristol regarding this pension reform matter. And on the 26th of September, that company wrote to the DPA and by extension the government of Grenada expressing concern about the implementation date, which was October the 1st, and requesting that there are proper negotiations and consultations with this matter so that, the union and by extension its membership can be satisfied with the whole process.
Grimes noted that pension reform seems to take center stage by the current administration. Also referenced in Friday's throne speech by Governor General Dame Cecile Grenade to mark the opening of the latest session of Parliament. However, Grimes is adamant that regularization should be given priority.
The position of the Public Workers Union is that this is literally, in regards to pension reform and regularization, if you have to link the two, a cart before the horse situation. So you have members. Again, I want to reference nurses, even though we deal with a lot of different, a variety of public officers. 10, 15 years in the service, acting operating on contract in a pensionable position and you don't regularize them, so automatically when pension reform comes about, they have to pay 3% of the salary towards the pension. Whereas if you do what you have to do, they will fall under the constitutional 1958 pension.
In 2023, Permanent Secretary at the Department of Public Administration, Lindonna Hilaire Marshall, disclosed that the regularization of public officials will be done in 3 phases.
Yeah, so somewhere it's not that clip, but I think one before where he spoke about use words to the effect that it would be worst off. They would be worst off when this whole thing takes hold. All right. And I think he referenced it as a tax. I think he referenced it as a tax somewhere about the place. He did that. All right. He used words to that effect. So I was looking for it because I could recall my memory is very good where he saw it as that. I just can't lay my hands on it. Pension reform, the whole issue of pension reform. All right. Pension reform. I think it was on with Callistra, I think, I think on Callistra's program. Let me see if I can find it because I think it's important. Maybe I can ask Kim the King for an extra 15 minutes this morning. So Kim the King, if you're listening to me, all right, if I can get an extra 15 minutes on the radio itself. I think it was on Callistra's program where he spoke about that, Callistra interviewed him. I think so.
What will the pension reform look like? We are talking about workers having to pay a percentage of the salary, which is an additional tax. And most of the workers in question would be low salaried workers. So you can imagine those unestablished workers or contract workers that, were, for lack of a better professional term, were seeing trouble in the service for eons, decades within the service. They will have to face an additional taxation, which will, affect their disposable income. So pension reform, Callistra, and regularization, they go hand in hand. But what we are seeing now, it is not being done in a fair manner. So let us imagine you don't regularize the members, but then you jump straight into pension reform. You have members, some of our members who have been there 20 years or so, 10, 15, 20 years, hanging on to the promise of regularization by those who sit in the corridors of power before they arrive there. And now, when you get there, you tell them, no, it cannot happen. You will now have to pay out of your, meager salary towards a pension scheme. So there is not even consideration here to say, well, look, we have to consider those with a certain amount of years. So when I looked at DPA's document, they were considering people who make 5 years at least regularize them so that they can experience that 1958 pension, because they are acting or they are operating in vacant spaces. Vacant spaces, meaning now that there is space there in terms of the revenue and expenditure or the estimates for them to be filled in that position. So now you're saying no, you go straight into the new pension scheme. The other question is, before you come in, because I see that you're thinking a lot here, this matter has some legal and constitutional implications, because if you look at section 92 of the Grenada Constitution Order, it expressly and explicitly states that any new pension scheme should be more favorable or better than the existing legislation. Can you tell any person that paying into a pension scheme is more favorable than the current legislation? I would think not. So the administration have not convinced us.
Right. So this guy, he doesn't have that knowledge. All right. It's sad because here it is. This new pension is for people who do not have a pension. So there is nothing favorable or unfavorable here as he's quoting the Constitution. The Constitution does not protect the unestablished worker, the contract worker, the contract for service worker. So he doesn't understand, or he's playing dumb. There is nothing favorable or unfavorable. In fact, he could easily say, well, boy, it's a favorable thing. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing for these contract workers, because as it stands now, when they retire, they are going home with nothing. What he wants the government to do is to take all of these contract workers, these temporary workers, and make them permanent under the 1958 pension scheme, which in its current state is unsustainable, where the government alone pays into it. But here it is. Where does the government get the money from to pay? From we taxpayers. When you buy something in the supermarket, when you pay your land tax, when you pay your vehicle registration and other things like that, when you bring in things on the port, we are the ones who are paying for these people to get their pension every month until they die. So what the government is saying, this thing is unsustainable. And P.S. Marshall explained. They were making $1 and 70 cents out of the dollar was going towards wage bill, paying salaries, paying pension, and that kind of stuff. So nothing was going into building roads and schools and meeting other commitments. So they have to change from that direction. This thing is common sense. But this political statement the union is making, because I think it's political, does not sound logical. As it stands now, these workers do not have a pension to go home to. What the government is proposing is that you have a pension scheme like other developed countries all around the world. That is what they're doing. You pay 3% out of your salary, and the government will pay 3%, and you will go home with a pension upon retirement. That is what the government is saying. This thing is simple, Simple. But Brian Grimes doesn't understand. Or he playing stupid, or he playing dumb. The government could decide, well, I am not giving these people any pension or putting or rolling out any new scheme to help these people. I will just leave them, let them retire and go home into poverty and have nothing to come every month. They would not get any pension or any money. The government could do that. The government is trying to help these workers. You understand the point? Trying to help these workers. But this guy, this union donkey, is out there talking rubbish. And in fact, he jumped to something else, because he's getting so much blows from reasonable thinking people. He jumped to something else now about nurses and about contract. And there are people in the public service who are working. And if you ask them, but did you get a letter from the Public Service Commission? Or do you have a contract for service? They don't have it. They don't have a contract for service. They don't have a letter from the Public Service Commission, but they work in. When they retire from government, they have nothing to get. No pension, no gratuity, nothing to get. These same workers that he's talking about who say, well, they get a backdated contract or some contract and it says 45,000 per annum, and the actual salary when you add it up is 30,000. Well, let me tell you this. For 6 months before the year started, they were working and they were collecting salary. This thing is common sense, 30,000, half of that is 15,000. So what they're collecting would bring them up to 30,000 every year. But they started working 6 months before the year. 6 months before. So it means, therefore, that it's $45,000, and the amount of months is not just 30, it's not just 12 months, but it's 12 plus 6. All right? But again, it's just coverage. They're trying to cover these people so that it will be recorded that they were working before 1 year. All right? So you have some who would get a contract backdated 3 years, 4 years, because they have no instrument, no nothing. The government could just tell them, well, don't come to work tomorrow, because they have nothing to show, nothing to back up. No contract, no nothing. What you have with government, how they employ you, how you get into the work. Nothing like that. So this guy is making all this noise. It's just a laugh, a big, big laugh. Because anybody with sense would know now. Government would not give you a contract saying $45,000 you have to get per year, and your actual salary would add it. When you add it up for the 12 months, it comes to $30,000. The government not going to do that. All right? So it means that the government is owing you $15,000. But if you go deeper into the contract, the salary that you're getting, that you are employed to work for, is not adding up to that extra $15,000, making it $45,000. So something is not right. You see? So maybe it's an error, but that doesn't mean to say you could get extra money. No. In fact, if the government pays you more than you're supposed to get, you have to pay them back. It's what it is. So, folks, I am saying the workers will be better off with that new pension scheme, because as it stands now, they do not have any pension. And you see, Brian Grimes thinking that the government is so dumb to have the Public Service Commission, right, appoint these people. Well, right now, these people are working for the government of Grenada, and they are not appointed by the Public Service Commission. And there are those who got a letter from the Public Service Commission stating the terms of their employment, but they're not permanent, meaning they're not confirmed. There is a process, you know. The Public Service Commission could appoint you, all right, to do X, Y, and Z, give you a letter saying this is what you got to do. And it's a annual thing, or every 2 years or every 5 years. The Public Service Commission will give you that. All right? But it is not that you're confirmed in any position as a public servant, meaning a confirmed public servant within the public service. This thing is common sense. I don't need to be a genius to understand this thing. This thing is simple. There are people working right now for the government of Grenada, and they're unestablished. And the Public Service Commission still has control over them. We need to sit and reason this thing out, you know. There are 3,672 people who are working within the public service. And the Public Service Commission still has control over them, and they are not established. They are not permanent. So the government could develop a new instrument to give to these 3,672 workers. All right, 3,672 workers. A new instrument stating the terms of their employment, and have them placed under that new pension. All right? So the government could do that. And then you have those who are in the system already under the 1958 pension scheme, and they are permanent also. So the worker who has that letter, you look nice. You want to put the sandals. You want to put the sandals in your foot? Come. Nah, don't put any shoes. You want the shoes? Come. Come. That's a man knows. What you want? The shoes?
Yes.
You don't want no sandals?
No.
Why?
I don't like it.
You don't like the sandals?
No.
Okay.
I like
What you like? The shoes?
Yes.
Because why? The lights? All right. So you're going to daycare?
Yes. Give me that money.
All right. Close the door. Close the door, Zoe. You want to say bye? Come and say hi. Come. You want to say hi to them and then you go. All right? Very soon you're going to be in the studio doing the work. You will be the say good morning.
Good morning.
Say hi.
Hi.
Say how are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
All right, Zoe, have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Good. Close the door. All right. So, yeah. Bye, Zoe. Take care. All right. So, again, I am saying the Public Service Commission still has control over the unestablished worker within the public service. So, it's not like, the Public Service Commission doesn't have control over them. The PS could still send them home based on the contractual arrangement. The government could still send them home. So to say that the government has to have some special thing in place, all right, or not special, sorry, have them made permanent with the laws that exist. That's a big joke, a big laugh. The government doesn't have to do that. The government is creating a new pension scheme or plan for these workers. All right? So they're creating that. Because as it stands now, they are going home without a pension. Because the NNP hired these people on contract. They're going home without a pension. The government wants to help these people. So when they go home, they would have a pension to fall back on until they die. The Public Service Commission still controls the public service, established or unestablished workers. The unestablished workers, they are not protected by the Constitution. They are not. So there's nothing to talk about what the Constitution says about favorable and unfavorable. They are not covered by the Constitution or by any law. They are not. They do not fall under the 1958 pension scheme or plan. That is why they're going home without a pension. The government is trying to help these people. So the government is saying, we cannot afford to be paying you a pension solely as government. Taxpayers' money just paying you when you retire. So the government is saying, you will pay 3% of your salary towards your pension, and the government will match it. Your employer, which is the government, will match it to pay 3% also. So you're getting 6% instead of 3. When you retire, that's your money. But you must work 5 years, at least 5 years in, for it to be vested. So that you can, after 5 years, you get in your money that you put in and the government money that they put in for you. So you could go into the private sector and it will roll over there with you until you reach 60. So once you reach 60, you're going to get your money. That's what the government is saying. So the union is saying, well, they would be worse off and there would be this. But mind you, only Brian Grimes that is actually speaking. The other union leaders or senior people within the union, they don't side with Brian Grimes with his nonsense. You realize that he's the only person speaking on this and talking the rubbish? Or else he would have had Daisy Hazard and all the others, or at least Daisy, because Daisy is always the person out there with him. But he's alone. The guy's alone speaking this nonsense. And anybody with a little sense would say, but wait, the government is trying to help these people to be better off, to have something to fall back on upon their retirement. All right? So I am saying it is clear cut. The government is trying to help these contract workers. As it stands now, once they retire, they're going home with no pension, no gratuity, nothing. They get nothing, a thank you letter. And then they go back depending on the government poor relief assistance program, the seed program. That is what they go back depending on, and everybody cannot go onto that program to get the $500 because what they get in from the NIS, $100 and something dollars, $200 and something dollars, $300 and something dollars, $400 and something dollars a month. That's what they're getting from the NIS after they retire, after they reach 60, and now they have to reach 65. So when they reach 60, they're not going to be getting anything from NIS. That is even worse. When they reach 60, they're not going to be getting anything from NIS. All right? They have to reach 65. I mean, I know it's matriculative. Every 2 years, you go by one. So 60, 61, 62, another 2 years, 63, 64, matriculatively. But ultimately, it will be 65 years. So when they retire from government at 60, they would be in poverty, extreme poverty. Let me categorize it like that. They would be in extreme poverty for 5 years after that. And then they would get NIS if they live long enough. They're going to get the $400 and something dollars or the $300 and something dollars because they're not going to get much of NIS. All right? Because these workers are not, those who are highly paid. But even if you're highly paid, you're going to get something from NIS. But I'm talking about 5 years you have to wait. All right? So the government is saying you should get a pension immediately once you reach 60 and you retire from government. And that is something that Brian Grimes is not discussing with these people. All right? And I think the government needs to make that clear. The government retirement age is 60 years. And if you have a pension to get, you get it at 60, age 60. If you do not have a pension to get from government, then you depend on NIS. And NIS would give you your pension. I don't know what age it is now, if it's 61 or 62. I think it's 61 or 62, somewhere around there. But it's going up to 65. I don't know where they're at now, if it is at 61 or 62 for NIS. But they're going up at 65. Every 2 years, they're going up by 1 year. All right? By 1 year. So I'm saying, you then, after you retire from government with nothing, because you're on contract and you have no pension to get, you then have to wait 5 years after that to get a pension from NIS. All right? And the pension you'll be getting from NIS will be very small. So the government recognizes that. And they say, nah, these people cannot be, right? So someone is telling me they're at 61. So the government is saying, nah, these people cannot be working with government for 20 years, 25 years, and they're going home with nothing because they're in contract and they're working within the public service. So the government is saying, we need to change all of this. We need to have them go home with something. So let us come up with a new pension plan. Let us create a new pension plan for these people. One that they would contribute 3% to, and the government will match it by contributing 3%. And they would go home with something. Every month, they would be getting something from that pension scheme. This thing is simple, You don't need to be a genius to understand that. You don't. You don't. And that is why the Prime Minister rightly explained. The Prime Minister explained this thing clearly, Very, very clear. Who can understand that something wrong with you? The man explained it in clear.
This pension plan is going to be applicable to 3,000 plus persons who do not have a pension. So if they leave the service now, whether it's on retirement age or whether they've worked for 10 or 15 years, they get nothing. So what the government is seeking to do is to give them a pension plan. And the government is contributing 3%, and we're asking them to contribute 3%. So that 3% is their money. The only issue is that we are simply saying, as opposed to spending all of it now, we are incentivizing you to save 3% of it, and we are matching an additional 3%. And to be clear, for all of the years that you've been working that you do not currently have a pension plan for, so that if you were leaving tomorrow, you will get nothing when you walk out, we are actually paying a past service contribution on the commencement of the pension plan. As in, we are going to fund a certain percentage to recognize the fact that you've already worked for whatever period of time with no payments going towards your pension. So I want to emphasize this. This is gain, 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 because currently you have nothing. If you leave now, you get nothing. If you work until you retire, you get nothing. And we're saying that, you see the numbers. We're not talking 5 people here. We are talking 3,600 plus persons who currently face this situation.
Right.
And so,
and I think that's a very important point our beloved Prime Minister made there. You have only to gain, gain, gain. So the contract worker, the people who are on contract, the unestablished worker, if they retire or if he or she retires now, reach the age of 60, he or she has nothing to get. No pension, no nothing. He or she is going home with nothing. Nothing as it stands now. The government is trying to put something in place to make sure that he or she goes home with a pension every month after retiring. So every month, they can look forward to that $700 or that $800 or whatever the amount every month until they die. That is what the government is trying to achieve.
We also have to talk about sustainability. The PS provided the background as to where Grenada found itself and why it was forced to go into structural adjustment and take all of the painful policies it had to take because the management of the government's finances was not being done prudently. And so we cannot go back to a system where the pension is completely funded by the government, i.e. taxpayers, with no contribution from the employees. Such a plan will simply not be sustainable. And if we did it 5-10 years from now, we'll be right back where we currently are. Because the situation we're in has arisen by the fact that essentially we had an unsustainable human resource finance management policy in place, which saw 70% of our money going towards wages and salaries, and the rest going towards financing debt. I still want to repeat the call made by the PS. Very early, the department wrote to the Trade Unions Council, inviting them to take part in this process. They have never done so. Notwithstanding that, we will continue to engage with them, whether it's individually or collectively, if they want to do so. The consultant has been on island repeatedly throughout this process, and there's been several engagements, and we have no difficulty in addressing that. The PS didn't say this, but I'm going to say it. The Public Workers Union went to the lawyers who wrote the government. We've since responded to that letter. And even in that letter, although what was contained in the letter was hogwash, we have still indicated to them we are ready to meet, and we propose the date of 30th October. But I want to make it clear. We are committed to doing this. We are committed to making sure that we do not leave the current generation of workers who do not have a pension to find themselves 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now retiring with no pension in place. It will not be good for them. They will retire into poverty, as many people have been doing over the last several years. It is still going to be the government and taxpayers they're going to be running to for some kind of social safety net or social protection. And so we are committed to ensuring this happens. And I'll make the final point. This pension is not impacting the 4,000 plus public servants who currently fall under the existing pension scheme for pensions when they retire. So you have to appreciate the kind of burden the government is undertaking by seeking to keep in place the existing pension for established public servants and at the same time create another pension for another 3,600 plus and counting persons. That is what we are seeking to do, and we are committed to do it. And we would hope that those who say they champion the rights of working class and working people will in fact take part in the process to help shape the outcome, which is by any yardstick an improvement on the current circumstances that the 3,600 plus workers find themselves in.
Yes. And I fully agree with the most honorable Deacon Mitchell there. And look, this Prime Minister cares about workers and the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. He didn't have to do this. No. You think he had to do this? No. He decided too many contract workers in the system going home without a pension. And they're trying to help these contract workers. And I am simply saying, you see this issue and this fight that Brian Grimes is picking, that would see his demise within this whole union movement. Because anybody with a lick of sense would agree that this is a good move by government. And that is why I am playing it and speaking about it, because it appeals to the independent voter and the independent thinker who is out there, who is neither NNP or NDC. Because the NDC people are going to agree. The NNP people, at least the majority of them, going to disagree because they want to see the back of the NDC and they want to see the NDC out. But the people in the middle, the reasonable people in the middle, they would be happy about this. And some of them know that in developed countries and so on, you have to pay into your pension. And when you retire, you get your pension every month until you die. All right? Not just the employer giving you a pension every month and you get a pension. No, you got to pay into it. You got to contribute towards your pension. All right? So, folks, this morning, the Honorable Lennox Andrews and all the other ministers, they are giving out the checks because some people receive the money, some farmers receive the money in their accounts already, in their accounts. So they're giving out the checks now. All right, checks this morning. So we wish them all the best, and the GIS will capture it, and most definitely we would see that in going forward. The NNP, they were making noise about the farmers and get this and get that. They move on to something else now. All right, so the government doing what it's supposed to do, then the NNP jump to something else and jump to something else. That's how they operate. They would never keep quiet. They would always be out there jumping to something else to make some kind of TV, some kind of confusion. All right? So they jump on the amplified sound system or whatever. No amplified music on National Heroes Day. That's Saturday coming. So they jump on that because they believe you have some people who can't reason for themselves and they're going to believe everything. All right? Yeah. Yeah. You have a football knockout. Do it on the Sunday. You don't have to do it Saturday. If you don't want to do it on the Saturday because you can't play music, do it on the Sunday. Or do it on the following Saturday. It's up to you. So what? Come on. All these things are business. It is a money-making thing. All right? Don't fool yourself. It's a money-making thing. To make the money, and they're good with that. Okay? Yeah. But, they're going to jump on these things, huh? And I know why, I know why they're jumping on it. I know why the NNP jumping on it. I know why. Don't fool yourself. All right? Folks, I want to wish you all the best. It's, I have a lot of stuff to talk about, but you go leave it here. We will leave it here. All right? Yeah. So somebody saying, well, you should also stop amplified music at Easter time. No, you have to stop no amplified music at Easter time. It's a precedence. Easter time is Easter time. It has always been so. Easter time. All right? Easter time is time for celebration. To celebrate Easter time. The resurrection of Christ. Easter. Easter time is celebration. It's a celebratory mood. Some people are missing it. Easter time is not, it's not Lent. Lent is a whole long period. How many days? It's a good amount of days. 40 days and 40 nights, something like that. Anyways, Lent. All right? It's a long period, but Easter is celebration. He has risen. He has risen. All right? Our Lord has risen from the dead. It's time to celebrate. Some people believe that they're smart and they're smarter than others. So, well, Easter and Easter, this why they don't do that for Easter time to know. Nah. You have to do that for Easter Sunday and Easter Monday and Easter. No. Celebration time, we jolly because he has risen from the dead. And that's really the hallmark of the faith and the belief. All right? Yes. So some people call and say, why do they do it for Easter? Why do they do it for Easter? If you know what Easter means, all right? Yeah. All you plain, all you bright. All you bright. You think all you bright when it comes to that. So they said, well, if they could do it for this period, they should do it for Easter time too. No. Easter Sunday and Easter morning, it's time to celebrate. Celebrate. All right? Carnival time, same thing. Carnival, we celebrate in liberation. Carnival in itself and jab and so on. It's really a time to celebrate. You're on the plantation, you enslaved and so on, you're free. Freedom. You rebel, more or less. To say, we go dance, we go enjoy ourselves. I'm not talking about doing anything bad, but enjoying yourself. That's carnival. The true meaning. All right? Yeah. Carnival time, man. We have a nice time. And they talk about jab is what? Devil mask and all kind of stupidness. All you ever seen the devil? Some people call radio and talk this nonsense. Nonsense, this stupidness. Have you ever seen the devil's face? Huh? Anyways, folks, take good care. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I will be back tonight again in the hub, starting from 8 in the p.m. until 9. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to discuss. But we will take our time and we will discuss it. We will take our time and we will go through it. Because we want to educate our people. We want to empower our people. We want to make our